In MIT's most prestigious classroom, there was a student who always sat in the back row. Chen, 20 years old, his brilliant mind known by everyone. Yet why he struggled so much in practical classes remained a mystery. His hands constantly trembled. When coding on the keyboard, he slowed down as if carrying an invisible weight. His classmates thought it was from stress. His professor suspected lack of talent. No one knew that Alex's left arm wasn't real. The prosthetic that replaced the arm he lost in a military explosion 3 years ago would malfunction from exam stress that day, revealing the truth Alex had hidden. In that moment, not just a classroom, but prejudices throughout the entire university would change. Welcome to One Human, One Story. Before we continue with this powerful story of hidden struggles and unexpected triumph, have you ever encountered someone who was quietly fighting battles you knew nothing about? Let us know in the comments. And if you believe stories like this need to be heard, hit that subscribe button and help us honor those who overcome challenges in silence. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology's Computer Engineering Department was one of the world's most prestigious technical education institutions. Every year, thousands of talented students fought to realize their dreams here. Its laboratories were filled with cutting-edge equipment, and its professors were world-renowned figures in their fields. Succeeding in this environment required not just intelligence, but also determination and constant hard work. Chen was a 20-year-old sophomore student, medium height, black hair, always dressed neatly. He preferred to sit in the back of the classroom and usually took notes quietly. While other students discussed projects in groups, Alex typically chose to work alone. This behavior was interpreted by some classmates as antisocial, but the reality was far more complex. Alex's most noticeable characteristic was his habit of constantly keeping his hands under the desk. Even when taking notes during class, he would immediately hide his hands when not writing, keeping them away from other students' line of sight. This behavior had become so natural that he now did it almost unconsciously. In the computer engineering department, practical applications were as important as theoretical courses. Students completed programming assignments in the lab every week, coding and testing complex algorithms. Alex seemed to struggle in these classes. While other students wrote code quickly, he worked more slowly, took frequent breaks, and sometimes completed his projects at home and brought them in. Professor Martinez was one of the department's most experienced faculty members. In her 30-year academic career, she had trained thousands of students. She was known for closely following her students not only for their academic achievements, but also for their personal struggles. It was impossible for her not to notice Alex's behavior in class. Professor Martinez could see Alex's potential. The young man's theoretical understanding was perfect, and his answers to questions were thoughtful and showed deep comprehension. However, the difficulties he experienced in practical applications masked his true talent. Martinez had tried several times to speak privately with Alex, but the young man had managed to change the subject each time. Various theories circulated among Alex's friends. Some thought he was a perfectionist, and that's why he worked slowly. Others believed he had social anxiety. A few students wondered if he lacked talent, and how he had been accepted to MIT. No one could guess the truth. The truth was this: Alex's left arm was a state-of-the-art prosthetic arm that replaced his real arm lost in a military explosion. 3 years ago, his family's injury in a military operation had completely changed his life. The prosthetic arm was sufficient for daily activities, but tasks requiring precise motor control, especially rapid keyboard use, were difficult. Alex's father had been an engineer working for the American Army. While serving in Iraq, a bomb that exploded while he was testing a bridge he had built changed both his father's and Alex's lives forever. His father died, and Alex lost his left arm. From that day forward, prosthetic technology had become part of his life. The prosthetic arm functioned without problems most of the day. Alex could eat, hold books, and even attempt to type on a keyboard. However, during stressful moments, especially during exam periods, the prosthetic's sensitive control system would struggle. Coordination between fingers would deteriorate, typing speed would decrease, and sometimes it would stop completely. Hiding the existence of the prosthetic arm had become a survival strategy for Alex. When starting university, he hadn't told anyone about his condition. He didn't want to receive pity, different treatment, or be treated as a disabled student. He just wanted to be seen as a normal student and be evaluated for his abilities. This secrecy strategy also affected his course selections. Alex preferred theoretical courses and avoided laboratory work as much as possible. He usually completed assignments at night, when no one could see, at his own pace. Although this situation affected his academic performance, no one knew the real reason. The biggest challenge in Professor Martinez's class was the final exam for real-time systems programming. This exam didn't consist only of theoretical questions. Students had to code, test, and optimize a complex algorithm within a specific time frame. The limited exam duration increased the time pressure. Alex prepared for the exam for weeks. He did coding exercises in his dorm room past midnight, trying to achieve maximum efficiency by using his prosthetic arm at different angles. While his friends participated in social activities, he continued to work alone in the laboratory. When exam day arrived, there was a tense atmosphere in the classroom. 25 students took their places in the computer laboratory. A programming environment was prepared on each computer, and exam questions were made available to students. Professor Martinez explained the rules. 2 hours duration, no resources could be used, only their own knowledge and coding abilities. Alex sat at the computer at the very back of the classroom. His hands were trembling slightly, but this was due to a technical problem with the prosthetic's calibration rather than stress. He read the questions: real-time data processing algorithm, concurrent thread management, memory optimization. It was difficult, but he knew he could solve all of them theoretically. The first half hour passed without problems. Alex established the algorithm's logic and designed the general structure. However, when he started coding, problems emerged. The prosthetic arm began to behave unexpectedly under stress. Coordination between fingers deteriorated, incorrect key presses increased. While other students were writing code rapidly, Alex was constantly pressing the backspace key, trying to correct his mistakes. Sweat droplets began to trickle down his forehead. The more he struggled, the worse the prosthetic functioned. He had entered a vicious cycle. Professor Martinez noticed Alex struggling as she walked around the classroom. When she looked at the young man's screen, she saw that the code's logic was perfect, but corrections were constantly being made. Alex's hands were trembling imperceptibly, and his writing speed was noticeably slower than other students. Alex was almost ready to give up during the second hour of the exam. The prosthetic arm's motor control system had completely malfunctioned. His left hand's fingers were responding to commands with delay. Writing quality code in this condition was nearly impossible. His eyes filled with tears, but he forced himself not to cry. When Professor Martinez approached Alex's desk, she noticed the difference in the young man's left arm. When the light hit it from a different angle, the glint of the prosthetic arm's metal components caught her eye. At that moment, everything became clear. The reason for Alex's struggle wasn't lack of talent, but a physical challenge. Martinez quietly came to Alex's side and whispered, "Alex, can you speak with me privately?" When Alex looked up, he saw understanding and respect in his professor's eyes. With a mixture of fear and shame, he stood up. Outside the classroom, Professor Martinez spoke with Alex. "How long have you been using a prosthetic arm?" she asked, with no judgment or pity in her voice. Alex was surprised. How had she understood? 3 years, he answered quietly. Dad died in a military explosion, and I lost my left arm. Professor Martinez's eyes sparkled with respect as she listened to Alex's story. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" she asked. Alex shrugged. "I didn't want to be treated differently. I just wanted to be a normal student." "Alex," Martinez said, "you're not a normal student. You're an extraordinary student. The performance you've shown while struggling with these challenges is far more impressive than what most students could demonstrate." Professor Martinez offered Alex an option. "We can return to the exam and I can explain the real situation to the class. This way you can get extra time. Or we can postpone the exam to another time just for you," Alex thought. He didn't want anyone to see him with pity, but he also didn't want failure. "Let's return to the classroom," Alex said with determination. "But please, I don't want them to see me differently." When they returned to the classroom, Professor Martinez took the microphone. "Friends, I want to make an announcement. I think everyone should know about the challenges Alex Chen has faced today." The class fell silent. Alex's heart was beating rapidly. Alex lost his father in military service 3 years ago while he himself lost his left arm. Since then, he has been using a prosthetic arm. Today, he's here, trying to take the same exam as all of you without requesting any privileges. The students in the class looked at Alex with shock. No one had anticipated such a situation. "Alex's theoretical knowledge is superior to all of you," Martinez continued. "But due to physical challenges, he experiences difficulties with time. I'm giving him extra time because this is fair and right." Alex felt more exposed than he had ever felt before, but at the same time, it was as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Professor Martinez turned to Alex. "Now, you have as much time as you need. Write the code you know. We're here, we're with you." When Alex returned to his computer, he no longer had anything to hide. He accepted the limitations of his prosthetic arm and adapted to them. He began writing code at a slow but steady pace. This time, because his stress had decreased, the prosthetic was working better too. The other students in the class were watching Alex, but not with pity, but with respect. They now understood how valuable each line of his code was. No one was acting hastily. Everyone was respecting Alex's working at his own pace. An hour later, Alex completed his code. He tested it, optimized it, and made his final checks. The code was working perfectly. Algorithm efficiency, memory usage, thread management, everything was flawless. "I'm finished," Alex said, his voice a mixture of pride and relief. Professor Martinez examined his code. Her eyes lit up. "Alex, this isn't just correct. This is brilliant. You've implemented the most complex optimizations." At that moment, something unexpected happened. Applause arose from a corner of the classroom. A student had stood up and was applauding Alex. Then another, then another. Soon the entire class was standing, enthusiastically applauding Alex. Alex's eyes filled with tears. The truth he had hidden for 3 years was no longer a source of shame, but a reason for pride. Professor Martinez spoke when the applause died down. "This isn't just perfect code. This is a demonstration of perseverance, determination, and real talent. Alex, you've given all of us hope and inspiration." After the exam, Alex's friendships completely changed. He now participated in group projects, joined laboratory work, and even became involved in social activities. Instead of hiding his prosthetic arm, he focused on showing what he could do with it. The following semester, Alex proposed opening a new course called Assistive Technologies and Programming. This course aimed to explore the challenges faced by disabled students in the programming field and solution methods. Professor Martinez supported this idea and appointed Alex as a teaching assistant. Alex's story resonated not only on the MIT campus, but also in national media. He became a source of inspiration for other students using prosthetic technology. Technology companies began contacting him with internship and job offers. However, the most important thing for Alex was that he could now live as himself. He no longer had to hide his prosthetic arm. On the contrary, he realized that this experience had made him a stronger, more understanding, and more determined person. At the graduation ceremony, Alex's mother sat in the front row. There was pride and happiness in her eyes. She could see that her son had not only overcome his physical disability, but had also undergone a great transformation in spiritual strength. Professor Martinez, listening to Alex's graduation speech, discovered the true meaning of education once again. Not just transferring knowledge, but bringing out students' potential, encouraging and supporting them. After graduation, Alex founded a startup developing prosthetic technologies. His goal was to develop tools that would enable people with physical disabilities like himself to work more comfortably in the technology field. His first product was an adaptive keyboard specifically designed for programmers. Years later, when Alex returned to MIT as a guest speaker, he told the new generation of students, "Your obstacles don't define you. How you struggle with them, how you overcome them defines you. I learned to discover not what I couldn't do with my prosthetic arm, but what I could do." Alex's story wasn't just an individual success story. It had become an example showing the power of empathy, understanding, and social acceptance. The event that occurred in the classroom that day had touched everyone's lives, broken prejudices, and taught what true solidarity meant. When Professor Martinez retired, a printout of the code Alex had written that day hung on her office wall. Below it was this note: "True talent is the capacity to overcome difficulties. Alex Chen, 2024. This story became a beacon of hope for everyone struggling with invisible challenges. Alex's courage had transformed the change that began with applause in a classroom into a social transformation. Now, MIT and other universities had special support programs for disabled students, and technology accessibility had become a priority. Alex Chen's name was remembered not just as a graduate, but as a symbol of change. And he continued to work for a new generation of students who no longer had to hide their hands under desks. The impact of understanding what Alex had been quietly enduring resonated far beyond that single classroom. Within weeks of his revelation, MIT's administration launched comprehensive accessibility reviews across all departments. The computer science building installed new adaptive workstations, and professors received training on accommodating students with various physical challenges. Alex's story inspired the creation of the Hidden Struggles Initiative, a campus-wide program designed to identify and support students facing invisible challenges. Whether dealing with learning disabilities, chronic illnesses, family trauma, or physical limitations, students now had resources and advocates who understood that academic performance wasn't always a reflection of true capability. The prosthetic technology industry took notice of Alex's innovations as well. His adaptive keyboard design, which featured customizable pressure sensitivity and ergonomic adjustments, became a prototype for assistive devices across multiple fields. Engineers and designers who had never considered the unique needs of prosthetic users began collaborating with disabled individuals to create more inclusive technology. Dr. Sarah Kim, a biomedical engineer who followed Alex's story, reached out to collaborate on advanced prosthetic interfaces. Together, they developed software that could learn individual users' movement patterns and adapt accordingly, reducing the stress-related malfunctions that Alex had experienced during his exam. Their work earned recognition from the National Institute of Health and secured funding for expanded research. The ripple effects extended to Alex's family as well. His mother, Maria Chen, had spent years quietly worrying about her son's social isolation and academic struggles without understanding their true cause. Seeing Alex finally embraced and supported by his community helped heal wounds that had festered since the tragic loss of her husband and her son's injury. Maria began speaking at support groups for military families, sharing how Alex's journey had taught her that healing sometimes required vulnerability, and that true strength came not from hiding pain, but from transforming it into purpose. Her presentations helped other families navigate similar challenges and inspired policy changes in veteran support services. Professor Martinez's approach to teaching evolved dramatically as well. She began incorporating challenge awareness into her curriculum, teaching students not just technical skills, but also empathy and inclusive design principles. Her classroom became a model for other institutions, demonstrating how academic excellence and human compassion could coexist. The annual Chen Innovation Award was established to recognize students who overcame significant personal challenges while contributing meaningfully to technological advancement. Recipients received not just monetary support, but also mentorship opportunities and platform to share their stories with the broader community. 5 years after graduation, Alex returned to MIT not just as a guest speaker, but as an adjunct professor. His course, Inclusive Technology Design, became one of the most popular electives on campus. Students learned to develop solutions that worked for people with diverse abilities, understanding that true innovation meant creating technology that served everyone. In his teaching, Alex emphasized that disability wasn't something to be fixed or hidden, but rather a different way of experiencing and interacting with the world that could lead to unique insights and creative solutions. His students went on to careers in major technology companies, bringing this inclusive mindset to products used by millions. The story of that exam day became legendary at MIT, passed down through generations of students as a reminder that everyone carries hidden struggles and that communities become stronger when they support their most vulnerable members. The classroom where Alex's revelation occurred was renamed the Chen Courage Classroom, serving as a daily reminder of the power of truth and acceptance. Alex's relationship with his prosthetic evolved too. What had once been a source of shame and limitation became a tool of empowerment and connection. He began publicly speaking about his experience, not to seek sympathy, but to challenge assumptions about disability and capability. His TED Talk, The Strength in Our Differences, garnered millions of views and sparked conversations about inclusion in workplaces and schools worldwide. The technology sector, once known for its sometimes harsh competitive culture, began implementing more comprehensive support systems for employees with disabilities. Alex consulted with major companies on accessibility initiatives, helping them understand that accommodating different needs wasn't about lowering standards, but about enabling everyone to perform at their highest potential. As Alex looked back on that terrifying exam day, he realized it had been the most important moment of his life, not because of the academic achievement, but because it marked the beginning of his authentic self. The trembling hands that had once been a source of anxiety became symbols of resilience, and the prosthetic arm that he had hidden became a bridge connecting him to others facing their own challenges. The standing ovation from his classmates that day had lasted only minutes, but its impact would resonate for decades, creating waves of change that transformed not just individual lives, but entire institutions and industries. In hiding his struggle, Alex had nearly denied himself and others the opportunity to witness the extraordinary strength that emerges when communities choose understanding over judgment, support over isolation, and celebration over pity. The months following Alex's revelation brought unexpected opportunities for growth and connection. His roommate, David, who had always wondered why Alex seemed so distant during late-night study sessions, finally understood the exhaustion that came from constantly managing both academic demands and physical adaptation. Their friendship deepened as David learned to offer support without overprotection, understanding that Alex needed partnership, not pity. The adaptive technologies Alex developed during his remaining time at MIT caught the attention of venture capitalists specializing in healthcare innovation. His prototype keyboard, which could adjust its resistance and response time based on user fatigue levels, represented a breakthrough in assistive technology design. The device used machine learning algorithms to predict when a user's motor control might be compromised and automatically compensated by adjusting sensitivity settings. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, a rehabilitation specialist at Massachusetts General Hospital, invited Alex to present his innovations to a consortium of medical professionals and engineers. His presentation, titled "Designing for Variability When Standard Solutions Fall Short," challenged the audience to reconsider their assumptions about what constituted normal human-computer interaction. "We design technology assuming everyone has the same baseline capabilities," Alex explained to the packed auditorium. "But human abilities exist on a spectrum that changes throughout the day, throughout our lives, and in response to countless factors. True accessibility means creating systems that adapt to users, not forcing users to adapt to systems." The audience, composed primarily of seasoned professionals who had spent careers in rehabilitation and assistive technology, listened with growing excitement as Alex demonstrated how his keyboard could distinguish between intentional commands and involuntary movements, how it could learn individual typing patterns, and how it could provide feedback to help users optimize their interaction techniques. Following his presentation, Alex was approached by Dr. Michael Roberts, director of the Veterans Administration's Prosthetic Research Division. Dr. Roberts had been searching for someone who could bridge the gap between engineering innovation and lived experience with prosthetic devices. "We have brilliant engineers," he told Alex, "but they're designing for theoretical users. We need someone who understands both the technical challenges and the daily reality of prosthetic use." This conversation led to Alex's acceptance into a special summer research program that paired him with a team developing next-generation neural interface technology. The project aimed to create prosthetic devices that could receive signals directly from the user's nervous system, eliminating many of the mechanical limitations that had caused Alex's exam day struggles. Working alongside Dr. Roberts' team, Alex contributed insights that proved invaluable to the research process. He could articulate the difference between what seemed like identical movements to an observer, but felt completely different to a prosthetic user. His explanations helped engineers understand why certain control schemes that worked perfectly in laboratory conditions failed when users experienced stress, fatigue, or time pressure. The summer research program also introduced Alex to a community of other prosthetic users who were pursuing careers in technology and engineering. Meeting Professor Martinez, a software developer who had lost both arms in a car accident, and James Liu, a mechanical engineer who used a prosthetic leg, helped Alex realize that his experience was part of a larger narrative about adaptation, innovation, and the redefinition of human capability. These connections led to the formation of the Adaptive Tech Collective, an informal network of technology professionals with disabilities who collaborated on projects, shared resources, and advocated for inclusive design practices in their respective companies and institutions. The group met monthly, sometimes virtually and sometimes in person, creating a support system that extended far beyond any single workplace or academic institution. Back at MIT, Alex's influence continued to grow. Professor Martinez collaborated with him to redesign several courses in the computer engineering curriculum, incorporating principles of universal design that made programming education more accessible to students with various physical and cognitive differences. Their work demonstrated that accommodations originally intended for disabled students often benefited everyone by creating more flexible and intuitive learning environments. The Chen Courage Classroom became more than just a renamed space. It evolved into a center for inclusive education research. Students and faculty conducted studies on effective teaching methods for diverse learners, developed new assessment techniques that measured understanding rather than just speed or conventional demonstration of knowledge, and created resources for educators throughout the university system. Alex's senior project, developed in collaboration with his assistive technology startup, was a comprehensive software platform that could integrate with various prosthetic devices to provide real-time adaptation and learning capabilities. The system monitored user performance, environmental conditions, stress indicators, and task demands to optimize device responsiveness automatically. Field tests with veterans from the local VA hospital showed significant improvements in user satisfaction and task completion rates. The project attracted attention from major technology companies, including Google, Microsoft, and Apple, all of whom were increasingly focused on accessibility as both a market opportunity and a social responsibility. Alex found himself in the unique position of being courted by companies that had once seemed impossibly distant from his daily reality as a struggling student. However, Alex's decision about his post-graduation path was influenced less by corporate offers and more by a conversation with Tommy Rodriguez, a 12-year-old boy who had been born with a congenital limb difference and was just beginning to use prosthetic devices. Tommy's mother had brought him to visit Alex's lab after reading about his work in a local newspaper. "Does it hurt?" Tommy asked, pointing at Alex's prosthetic arm with the directness that only children possess. "Not physically," Alex replied, "but sometimes it feels heavy in other ways." Tommy nodded seriously, as if he understood exactly what Alex meant. "My mom says I'm going to be able to do anything other kids can do," Tommy said, "but sometimes I think maybe I'll be able to do things they can't do instead." This conversation crystallized Alex's understanding of his purpose. He realized that his work wasn't just about creating better technology. It was about changing how society understood human capability and potential. He declined the corporate job offers and instead accepted a fellowship position that would allow him to continue his research while pursuing a master's degree in biomedical engineering. The fellowship provided funding for Alex to expand his research team, bringing together students from engineering, psychology, medicine, and design programs. Together, they worked on projects that addressed not just the technical aspects of prosthetic use, but also the social, emotional, and psychological dimensions of living with assistive technology. One particularly impactful project involved partnering with a local high school to create a peer mentorship program, pairing teenage prosthetic users with college students and young professionals who had similar experiences. Alex served as a coordinator and mentor, helping young people navigate the challenges of adolescence while managing physical differences and the associated social complexities. The program's success led to its expansion to other schools and communities, eventually becoming a model replicated in cities across the country. Alex's role evolved from technical researcher to program developer to national advocate, though he always maintained his focus on the human stories behind the technology. 3 years after his graduation from MIT, Alex was invited to testify before a congressional committee on healthcare and technology policy. His testimony focused on the need for increased funding for assistive technology research and the importance of including disabled individuals in the design and development process for products intended to serve them. "For too long," Alex told the committee, "assistive technology has been developed by well-meaning people who assume they know what users need rather than asking us directly. The result is often expensive equipment that sits unused because it doesn't address real-world challenges or integrate seamlessly into daily life. We need funding models that prioritize user-centered design and support research conducted by and with disabled individuals, not just for them." His testimony, delivered with the same quiet confidence that had characterized his exam day revelation years earlier, was credited with influencing legislation that allocated significant new funding for collaborative assistive technology research and established requirements for user involvement in federally funded research projects. The ripple effects of Alex's advocacy work extended internationally as well. He was invited to speak at conferences in Europe, Asia, and Australia, sharing his research findings and advocating for policy changes that would improve access to assistive technology globally. His presentations always included not just technical specifications and research data, but also personal stories that helped audiences understand the human impact of design decisions. On the 5th anniversary of his exam day revelation, Alex returned to MIT for a special symposium on inclusive education and technology. The event drew participants from around the world, including many of the students who had witnessed his original classroom moment. Professor Martinez, now nearing retirement, introduced Alex by sharing her own reflection on that transformative day. "I've been teaching for over 30 years," she said, "and I thought I understood what it meant to educate students. But Alex taught me that true education isn't just about imparting knowledge. It's about creating conditions where everyone can reveal their authentic selves and contribute their unique perspectives." That exam day changed not just Alex's life, but the lives of everyone in that classroom, including mine. Alex's keynote address to the symposium audience focused on the concept of adaptive excellence, the idea that true achievement often requires not conforming to standard expectations, but rather finding innovative ways to demonstrate capability and contribute value. He challenged the audience to reconsider their definitions of success and to create environments where diverse approaches to problem-solving were not just tolerated, but actively encouraged. Excellence isn't about fitting into predetermined molds, Alex concluded his address. It's about having the courage to be authentically yourself and the creativity to find ways to contribute your unique gifts to the world. Sometimes that means asking for accommodations. Sometimes it means developing new tools. Sometimes it means educating others about perspectives they haven't considered. But it always means refusing to let other people's assumptions limit your potential. The standing ovation Alex received that day lasted longer than the one in his original classroom, but its meaning had evolved. This wasn't applause for overcoming adversity or achieving despite obstacles. It was recognition of contribution, innovation, and leadership. Alex had transformed from a student hiding his differences to a leader celebrating them and helping others do the same. Sometimes the greatest victories emerge from the quietest struggles. Alex's story reminds us that everyone carries hidden battles. Showing empathy, trying to understand, and offering support can transform lives. You never know what challenges those around you face. Show them patience and understanding. Do you know someone who quietly struggles with challenges, but ultimately achieves success? Let's not forget their stories and remember the power of the support we provide them.